Hello again, welcome to this issue of the Fyrian website training. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be covering how to add a web page to your website. In order to create a new page, you need to log into your web administrative portal, click on the website tab as I have already done, and then come over here under the action box and click on Create New Web Page. Once I click on this button, this is going to bring up a form that I need to fill out, and for most of you, this form will look very familiar because it's basically the same form that you see every time you make a change to an existing web page. The only difference here is now we're going to be working with the web page details. The content of the page itself gets plugged into the content editor, which you'll see in a separate training on how to use that. But as far as creating the page, we're going to deal with the web page details box. So let's go ahead and get started. The folder, in most cases, you're just going to leave this alone. This is a root level with just a slash here. You don't need to put it necessarily in a folder unless you're doing something special with your site that I'm not aware of. So in most cases, you're just going to leave this alone. The web page URL, this is the actual address of the page that shows up in the URL string at the top of the window, as you see that I've highlighted up here. So we're going to come down here, and it's always best from a search engine optimization standpoint to include 2 or 3 keywords that are relevant to the content of the page. Again, you want to try to keep this as short as possible, and what's most important is that you can't you cannot use any spaces in the name or any special characters, no ampersands, no extra periods, no question marks, anything like that, because the browser would mistake any of those as code for a specific web application. So you want to keep it simple, keep it straightforward, no spaces. Dashes and underscores are fine. So let's go ahead and create a sample one. We'll call this sample dash keyword dash keyword. I always try to use 2 or 3 keywords in that manner. So for example, and make sure that you always put .htm at the end. As you can see, it's building the URL of the page up here as we're typing. Let's take a real world example. This is the formula that you would use. So as a real world example, let's say we wanted to call this Fyrian page building, if this were going to be a web page specific to this tutorial. And I'm going to put .htm at the end. Always put the .htm at the end of your page URLs. Now, once you've done that, you'll see you have release date and expiration date. Release date just means when do you want it to go online. Expiration date is when do you want it to automatically come offline. If you want this to stay online indefinitely, just leave those as they are. The next thing you're going to see here is page name. Now the system is automatically going to carry over whatever you typed in page URL into page name. However, you don't typically want to leave it that way because whatever's in the page name is what's going to show up in your list of web pages, and it's also exactly what's going to show up in your breadcrumb trails across the top of the page to help your website visitors navigate where they're going. So you typically want to take this and retype it. So we'll call this for this particular sample, I would call this page building in all caps like that. It's fine if you use spaces here, but still no special characters, no ampersands or anything like that, because that will cause problems with the breadcrumb trail. The next important thing here is your template. You need to select which template of the site design you want this page to fall under so that it looks like the rest of your site. So I'm going to click on here, and you'll have a whole bunch of templates to choose from in the list for different sections. In this case, for this one, I would put it under the How It Works section, and that's going to give me a little pop-up box here that says you've changed the template, do you want to apply it? And I'm just going to click OK. That's going to think for a minute. And you'll notice that after it applies it, it closes that web page details box. So you need to come over here to this little triangle and click on that to open it again. And the last step is to come down here to show more options. And you'll see we have a page title field. This is the actual title that shows up at the very top of the browser window, and it's also important for search engine optimization. Do not confuse this with page name. It's something totally different. So for page title, we can actually use whatever we want in here. This is the one place that spaces and special characters are just fine. So let's say we wanted to call this Fyrian system how to add a page. Okay. So when we actually create this page, it'll actually put that up here at the top where currently it says Dead Nuts Design Fyrian-Fyrian. Okay. So that's how you get all those settings in place. Once you get all that done, the next thing you need to do is click on Save and Publish. That's actually going to create the page. The page does not exist until you click Save and Publish. Then you can come in here and add whatever content you want into the content editor. Again, clicking Save and Publish when you're done. Once you've created the page and added your content, there are two other steps that you have to complete in order for this site to show up, or this page to show up on your site. First of all, you have to link to the page either from another page or add it to a dynamic menu, and both of those topics are covered in other training videos. And you also need to decide where in the hierarchy of the site this page lands. So if I come here to modules, we've got the sitemap over here, and if I click on that, it's going to give me a list of all the different pages on the site, and then what I have to do is come in here and order them. So we've got this page building site down here that I just created as a sample, and let's say this page I want it to be under the About Us page. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, drag it, and land it right on top of the About Us page. It's going to think for a minute, and you'll see how I put it there. So that way our breadcrumb trail is correct, and I'll cover breadcrumbs in a different video so you can see what those are. So that's how you actually create a page. Now the last thing that you need to do to link this page to the style sheets for your template, there is one last thing, and that is when you go back into your page that you've just created in your content area, you need to come down here to the HTML button underneath the content area, click on it, and you're going to type in this string exactly as you see it here, bracket h1 bracket headline bracket slash h1 bracket, and then in a separate line bracket p bracket text bracket slash p bracket. What that is specific HTML code that inserts a headline and paragraph text styles into that page. It links your text directly to the CSS template. So now if I come down here and click on design, you'll see here that it's automatically put that headline into the burgundy headline color I have set up for that particular template. That gets you started. Now I can actually highlight this text and just type over it, say, how to add a page to your site as my actual headline, and then I can come down here and type in anything I want to as my page content. So don't forget that step. That will actually make sure that the text that you input into the page actually links up to your style sheets and looks like all the rest of your pages. Once you've done that, click Save and Publish, and you're well on your way. Again, thanks for joining me for this particular training. There will be more trainings on this same channel, so make sure that you check out the rest of them for other neat tips and tricks on how you can use the admin panel for your website. Again, my name is Mark, and thanks for joining me for this Fyrian training.